Greetings, everyone. This is Payment Lorenzo, your host, your friend, your coach. Today, I have another good guest for you, my good friend, Nakula Jazz. We had a very interesting conversation on part one about his absolutely fascinating story, background, all the things he's done in his life. And today, we're going to dive into the actual science of semen retention and how that, affects not just the man, but the people around them, especially the women and the lives and all that. And all of that good stuff. So, Nicholas, welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you, man. I appreciate being here once again.
Pleasure's all mine. So, before we start, give us a brief summary of who you are, first and foremost, as a man and human being, for the people who don't know you yet.
Yeah. As we talked about last time, I help men master their sexual energy.
Mm-hmm.
I am just a guy, a soul living and discovering the truth. And that's what got me onto this path. And I run an interfaith men's ministry, helping men all around the world quit pornography, learn to transmute their sexual energy, and 10 times their impact and influence.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Love that. That's a very powerful topic, something that I always wanted to cover. And I'm glad that we connected because, again, that's a very powerful information that people need to know. So, before we get into that, tell us again, how the hell did you get into that yourself, first and foremost?
Yeah, I got into it on my own spiritual path and journey, basically looking how to up level my own impact and my own influence, how to increase my finances. And
Mm.
through reading the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, chapter 11 is called The Mysteries of Sex Transmutation. That's where I first got introduced to the concept. And, like most people who's read the book, they kind of breezed over it or read it, but didn't really understand it. And Napoleon Hill, he actually gives you processes on how to do everything from auto suggestion, leadership processes, how to create a definite chief aim for your life. In chapter 11, he tells you the importance of transmuting energy. He tells you that this is what the most successful people in the world does, but he doesn't actually give you a process. And I say, thank goodness, because he gave me my life's work, which was to fill in the gap and say, hey, how do you actually do that? And that led me onto a massive journey through different spiritual traditions and processes, working with yogis, working with Taoist monks, working with looking at Western science and how what is the science behind semen retention? What is the science behind transmutation? And that's how I got into this work, as I basically learned from some monks and some yogis on how to actually do this through breath work, muscle control, and meditation, and backed with Ayurveda, which is the Eastern way in Chinese medicine, backed up with modern science. Dr. Flatto's work on semen retention, and he's got a great book called Why Sex is Killing You, and he talks about the importance of a man retaining his semen and keeping that fluid within himself.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, speaking of that, tell us about the implication of how is that affecting man uh, if they don't retain the semen?
Yeah, I think it's the first thing to address is, when guys first hear of the concept of semen retention, there's a lot of questions that come up like, one, are you crazy? Like, what's the point of doing that, right? Like, why would I want to do that? Why would I try to deny myself what we generally consider to be the greatest pleasure, which is the big O, right? The ejaculation. Why would I want to do that? And I think that's a fair question to address. Secondly, I just want to like I guess preface the answer with I'm not saying never to ejaculate or that there's like no ejaculation at all. The process of semen retention is really about regulation. And at bare minimum, the bare standard of semen retention is no ejaculation through masturbation, especially through pornography, no masturbation, and only ejaculation through intimacy. The higher level practice of semen retention is non-ejaculatory sex, non-ejaculatory orgasms, and only ejaculation for the procreation of baby. And then the highest level of that would be a concept called brahmachari, or essentially like a monk, which you're totally transcending the physical desire. And that would only be for people who are very high level spiritual practitioners or who desire very high spiritual experiences.
Love that, love that.
Um, Yeah, so just wanted to kind of, before I give the answer, just to address some of the initial sort of knee-jerk
Mm,
reactions that come up when the word semen retention is brought up. It's like, what? What's going on here? Why should a man look to retain his semen or practice some sort of chastity or some sort of control over around his sexual energy? So from a biological perspective, it's actually quite simple. Um, according to Ayurveda, whatever you ate 30 days ago today is being produced as semen. So whatever
mm.
you ate goes through seven, what's known as dutas in Sanskrit. So just call them like layers of refinement. And I can quickly get them for you to just to give you what is a duta. Basically, they are layers of refinement that allow your food to be broken down into your body. So it goes through, becoming fat and fat becoming bone becoming blood, and blood eventually being dripped out of the bone marrow as semen. That's not the
Wow.
exact way I kind of did that at a high level, but basically there's these seven levels of refinement. And so what we look at is blood. What is semen? Semen is concentrated blood. It's estimated that it takes about 40 to 60 ounces of blood to create 1 ounce or one drop of semen. So it's a
Wow.
tremendous amounts of energy that your body uses to actually
Mm,
create semen. And so that's the first thing that you should know is that your body is actually prioritizing this process. Why? From a biological perspective, semen is meant to be mixed in with the sperm. It's meant to give the nutrients into a woman so that you can produce a baby. So when you look at it through that lens, the body prioritizes reproduction as part of the need to carry the species forward, right?
mm,
Ejaculation at its very base level is about procreation. That's what it's about. And that's why it feels so good because your body, knowing that you're a pleasure seeking individual, knows like, hey, we're going to make this very pleasurable. So the experience of creating a baby is pleasurable and that you have incentive to do it. And so it's a motivation for us to go out as men and look for opportunity to procreate. So what your body does is it concentrates or it purifies, let's say, all of your best proteins, enzymes, nutrients, and one of the main elements in semen is phosphorus, which
wow.
all goes into the semen and then is mixed in with the sperm is mixed in with the semen through an ejaculation to give the best opportunity for life. Because for the best opportunity for life, you want to start that life off with the best proteins, enzymes, nutrients. So when you understand this, you can say, okay, the body is prioritizing this and it's giving a tremendous amounts of energy. So semen retention or quality of life begins with what you eat
Mhm,
because what you eat literally becomes the building blocks in which your body is regenerated and creates your body, your physical vehicle for experiencing this world. So the first aspect of semen retention, I always say, is actually controlling the tongue, meaning eat
mm,
good foods,
mm,
stay away from the processed crap, because that's all going to get refined down into the quality of building blocks in which your body can use to repair its muscles. Now, what happens is over about 7 to 10 days when a man retains, the body kind of goes, hey man, you're not being fruitful and multiplying, right? You're not spreading your seed. There's been no opportunity for procreation. So we being nature, your body, specifically your testicles, say we're gonna help you out. What happens is your testicles get stimulated to produce more testosterone.
mm,
And what happens is you experience a spike of testosterone. And this is where a lot of guys will, in the practice, first of all, this is where a lot of guys end up kind of relapsing from the practice. So if you've heard of things like no FAP or semen retention, where guys are trying to stay away from masturbation pornography and they go, I can't. Right around day 10, they're like, I can't, I can't hold it anymore. The hole in the wall looks good type of thing. That's because you're actually getting a testosterone boost, right? It's a good thing. I always say, Jordan Peterson has a line that's very famous about be dangerous but control it.
mm.
My version of that line is be horny and control it,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So It's not about repression or suppression. It's about actually expression. And that's what Napoleon Hill talks about. A man who can actually express that horniness, but redirect it or transmute it to his business, to his finances, to his workouts, to
Mm.
his athletics, or to higher spiritual pursuits. He's going to become a genius. He's going to become a genius in his endeavors. He's going to have motivation and energy and focus, unlike your average individual who's, especially in today's world, who's constantly depleting themselves.
Yeah.
So you get,
Wow.
yeah, you get this testosterone boost that happens, and this testosterone boost starts to, first of all, motivate you. You'll notice that
Mm.
brain fog starts to go away. So a lot of guys are complaining about, I'm feeling lethargic. I don't have energy. I don't feel motivated to go and accomplish my goals. I know what to do, but I don't have the energy to do it. And that's where I was at in my own journey when I was looking. I'm like, I know what to do. You know, I know the strategies, but why am I not executing? And why am I not executing at a level that really seems to magnetize the results that I
Mm.
want? Well, at the time, it's because I was jerking off and watching porn, and I didn't correlate the two until I started really studying this and got intrigued about this idea of sexual transmutation.
Fascinating stuff. Fascinating. You mentioned something very catchy. You said be horny and control it.
Hmm.
Uh, you said something else. It's not about repression, but about expression. What was that again?
Hmm. Yeah, it's not about oppression or suppression, it's about expression.
Okay.
And so what that means is a lot of guys think like when they hear words like semen retention or they hear things like I grew up in the Catholic tradition and they're just like the priest just like, don't do it. They're kind of waving their finger, don't do it. And I'm like, come on, you guys are doing it. Or there's a natural
Mm.
biological urge where you see someone you're attracted to. But
Mm.
it was never explained why. Like, why don't do it? Why only do it in marriage or in a committed relationship?
Mm.
It's like no one ever explained that. And in today's modern world where essentially promiscuity is promoted it's in our culture, it's everywhere. I know we talked about this on the last episode. It's very difficult to reconcile why you would want to do this in today's world. But this is the work that we're doing is actually explaining this is why you want to do it. That's why every wisdom tradition in the world, whether it's Christianity or Judaism or Eastern philosophies like Hinduism or Buddhism or Taoism, they had some rules, regulations, or recommendations around controlling your
Mm.
sexual energy. And a lot of it was like, wait till get married, stay away from masturbation. This is pretty much found in all wisdom traditions. So it's like, why? That's like basically what drove me. It's like, why? Why do they all seem to say this? And is there a science behind it? And there is. It's actually, well known
Mm.
among spiritual circles, but it doesn't seem to be well known amongst the mainstream. And we're trying to make this knowledge mainstream. Um, so you get the testosterone boost, but what also happens is that semen is then recirculated within the body. And this is a really interesting part. And this is based upon Dr. Flatto's work, which is basically he studied sex, And what I like about Dr. Flatto is he's not a spiritualist, he's a doctor, So he's just here's what it is, right? And I like that, because it's like, okay, here's another spiritual guy who's telling me, don't, these things are important. But this is a doctor, right? This is a guy who's just like looking at it through the lens of science. And he basically says there's a resource battle happening in your body. And this is backed up in spiritual knowledge, such as like the Vedas and the Taoist tradition as well. But this is basically what he says. He says, look, there's a resource battle happening within your body, and it's the battle between the balls and the brain. That's what I call it, right? And that's like a real thing. I used to use that as just an analogy of like the mental battle between the balls and the brains, like should I, shouldn't I, right? Like should I watch it, shouldn't I watch it? Oh, I know that girl's not good for me, but oh man, she's so hot, or whatever it is, all the things that we do as men that get us into
Yeah.
trouble, right? So every guy knows that battle, but it's a real
Right.
battle. It's a real thing that's happening on a biological level, and what's happening is that basically, so your body's producing semen, And
Mm,
then what happens is as you're retaining, your body is essentially kind of becoming a surplus of semen now. It's kind of getting into like a surplus where it's like, okay, we're producing, you're not ejaculating. So what are we going to do with this? What happens is you're going to reabsorb, and that's actually what starts the testosterone boost is the reabsorption process where the blood is the semen is reabsorbed back into the blood. And there's a famous quote by Friedrich Nietzsche where he talks about that the reabsorption of semen is one of the most powerful things that can happen in a man's body.
mm,
And Napoleon Hill also alludes to this, where he talks about three main expressions or three main potentials for a man's sexual energy. One is the procreation of a baby. The second is vital health, right? And that's from the reabsorption process, which I'll explain. And then the third is genius, like
mm.
literally, like actually fulfilling the brain. And Dr. Flatto's work backs this up scientifically. So what Dr. Flatto discovered was that there's a so what happens is that the semen is then reabsorbed back through the bloodstream, and what it's carrying is the best proteins, enzymes, nutrients, phosphate, zinc. Like the chemical compound is incredible of what semen is. Now, what's really interesting is that your semen, your spinal fluid, and the finer brain tissues are all pretty much the same chemical compound. So what
Wow.
happens is the body reabsorbs the semen, and then it has, like, call it a priority list. It's like, all right, we've got all of this great nutrients and enzymes and proteins. We've got all this great stuff. We're not ejaculating. So what we're going to do is redistribute it, and we're going to start to repair the body at a cellular level. So let's look at repairing the digestive system. Let's look at repairing the muscles. Let's look at actually repairing the body. And what guys tend to experience at this point in time is like brighter eyes,
Mm,
deeper voice. Um, they notice that they've got more energy. Recovery time is quicker from workouts. Body fat is easily shedded through working out. Now, it's not that you just sit there and practice semen retention and this is going to happen. You have to back it up with action, going to the gym, or whatever you do. So there's a lot of health benefits and vitality that comes from this. Then there's a particular line in the Vedas. There's an ancient book called Srimad Bhagavatam, and it's a series of books of spiritual knowledge. That's one of the main texts in the Hindu tradition and the yogic tradition. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a line where it says there's the story of these four Kumars who are like these kind of eternal youth-like characters who it says due to their semen flowing upwards in the body, they became enlightened and like geniuses. It's like, what are they talking about? The semen flowing upwards in the body. Well, what Dr. Flatto says is that what happens is as the semen then gets repaired in the body, it then begins to repair or replenish the spinal fluid.
mm,
And we know from spiritual traditions that the spine and the spinal fluid is extremely important if you want to awaken your energy, if you want to have higher spiritual realizations. So the spinal fluid becomes replenished, and then as it reaches the brain, it starts to then replenish the brain and start to actually make the synapses in the brain, so the firing off of neurons happen quicker, finer brain tissues become repaired and developed, and quicker memory, sharper mind. So you're
mm,
quicker, you're sharper, and this is what allows you to access your subconscious mind, reprogram yourself, and as well as take in information at
mm,
higher degrees. Hence why Napoleon Hill is saying that this kind of makes you like a genius.
mm,
Then there's Ayurveda presents another level. So that's on the level of, let's say, proven science. Now there's another level to this, which can be experienced, but it starts to go outside the realm of modern science, but is talked about in spiritual scriptures, which is then as a man retains and he's now operating in his higher centers because he's operating no longer from his base. He's no longer just chasing S3X all day long. But now he's freed that energy up. He's freed that thought process up. This actually begins to open up or his third eye, and his centers of intuition, as well as his higher energy centers. Specifically, the rate of vibration of the brain increases, which allows him, and this is what Napoleon Hill talks about, tapping into what he called infinite intelligence or the ether, which he
Mm.
actually says is a higher rate of frequency. So as a man becomes more chaste, he redistributes his energy, his fluids to his brain begins to vibrate at a higher frequency, allowing him to tap into genius thoughts or infinite intelligence, which
Mm.
then gives him the inspired thoughts, the inspiration, and the brain power to not only attract the right thought processes, but literally magnetize himself and therefore attract the right people, circumstances, and opportunities that are in alignment with his goals. And he said that this was the secret to riches. This was the secret to higher
Mm.
genius, whether you wanted to be a political leader, a business leader, an inventor, whatever your expression is, this is the secret to reaching top levels of peak performance, both at a physical and as well as at a subtle level.
So wow, this is why most high level athletes they they don't have sex before any big game, big tournaments. I've seen that in multiple sports. So that's why, okay. Mm.
Yeah, and specifically with fighters, this is well known. If we talk about like Alex Pereira, who's
Mm.
on top of the UFC world right now. I actually saw an article called Semen Retention Pereira, and it talked about this as being part of his training camp. David Hayes, heavyweight champion, he was from the UK. He said no ejaculation, no sex 6 weeks before his fight. And he had a famous line that said something like, if you send two hungry cat, if you have a hungry cat fighting like a full cat, for a meal, which one is gonna win?
Of
Right? The
course.
hungry cat. Yeah, right? The one who wants it more. And that's
Mm.
what it does. Friedrich Nietzsche, again, has a beautiful quote that talks about see if I could get it here, that talks about the reabsorption of semen and how powerful it does and how it actually makes somebody want to polarize. So he said the exact quote is this, Friedrich Nietzsche, the reabsorption of semen by the blood is perhaps the most highest stimulant. It prompts the stimulus of power, the unrest of all forces towards the overcoming of resistance, meaning
Wow.
it gives you the drive to conquer anything in front of you. Um, Muhammad Ali, when he was asked what makes you great, he said his answer was being in bed at 9 p.m. alone, dodging the girls and the parties.
Mm.
And he said that we all do the same thing. He's like, I hit the bags, the other guy hits the bags. I jump rope, he jumps rope. Most of us are doing the same things, but what allows a man to do it at such a level where he executes it at a world-class level was the discipline around his sexual energy and focus.
Mm.
Steve Jobs was documented by his partner of having non-ejaculatory sex, and he would actually it was is documented by his partner saying, yes, he wouldn't ejaculate during sex. He would literally say, "I need to keep that for my wealth and my power." So he
Wow.
understood this, and we know Steve Jobs studied Eastern philosophy to understand some of this. And this is many men who have revealed this. Kanye West is documented saying, I basically took my sex addiction and I put it into my music, and that's what allowed me to be a genius at my music.
Mm. Fascinating. You mentioned the impact of nutrition and what we eat. Of course, we have to stop eating processed food, but is there any specific food that are absolutely that that are very powerful for the that's gonna help us create more powerful and more enriched semen, for example?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I would say that
Yeah.
overall, you want to, so the yogis have what's known as a sattvic diet. So they talk about these three modes to material nature, the mode of ignorance, the mode of passion, the mode of goodness.
Mm,
So the Sanskrit words are tamas, rajas, and sattvic. And
okay.
so the mode of ignorance are things like alcohol and drugs, because the mode of ignorance can be described as things that are pleasurable at the beginning but become poisonous at the end. So it's
Mm,
like we might have a couple drinks and think, yeah, I'm having a good time. But if we keep drinking and that becomes a lifestyle, that same thing that brings us pleasure is now bringing us disease or
mm,
is bringing us low quality of life. So anything in the mode of ignorance we want to avoid, and chiefly, I would say drugs and alcohol fall into that. And that's also going to make your body acidic. So you want to avoid things that make you acidic. Um, so heavy meat eating can make you acidic. It's not that you necessarily have to cut out all meats or anything like that if you do eat meat or feel like that needs to be part of your diet. But you definitely want to balance that out with like lots of fruits and vegetables. The mode of passion is categorized as things that get you like kind of riled up and going. So like they're kind of like aphrodisiacs. So chocolate,
mm.
onion, garlic. Onion and garlic are known as like aphrodisiacs. Oysters are known as
Really?
aphrodisiacs. Yeah, they're things that actually stimulate the system. So onion, garlic, and yeah, like chocolate, caffeine. Caffeine is a stimulant. I would consider this all in the mode of passion. And what it does is it basically stimulates you. It also makes you acidic as well.
Mm,
And so therefore, you want to at least reduce it or at least balance it with a ton of water and good foods. So what would be sattvic foods? Lentils, rice, um, and lentil and rice combined can give you like a really good protein. So,
mm,
for people that lentils and rice together really make a complete protein. And then lots of fruits, lots of vegetables, because those things are going to make you alkaline. Lemon water, watermelon, these things are going to put your body into an alkaline state. And when you're in an alkaline state, you're just naturally going to fight off diseases and your body's going to function a lot better. This is also going to give you higher quality nutrients. But at the end of the day, principally, because I don't push one diet or another, there's all
mm,
so much confusion around diets and what to eat and not to eat. Listen to your body. Ultimately, eat whole, real food you
mm,
know? So if you eat meat, great. Get the best quality meats, eat whole foods. If you are vegetarian, eat the best quality foods that you can. If you're vegan, eat the best quality foods that you can. Stay away from the processed stuff. Just because someone's vegan or vegetarian doesn't mean they're healthy. Doritos is vegetarian, but it doesn't mean it's good for you, right?
For
So
sure.
that's why I don't push one diet or the other. But
Wow.
ultimately, what I say is the better quality food, the better quality life force. Semen
Mm,
equals life force and energy. The better quality life force, the better quality life, and more
mm.
magnetism to attract the things that you desire.
Absolutely. What are your thoughts on carrot and carrot juice and tomatoes? I heard tomatoes is one of the best. It's almost like the best medicine for men, especially when it comes to prostate. So I've been eating
Oh, really?
a tomato like basically for the past even they say once you're past 50, uh, it's very healthy for man to eat one or two tomatoes raw, like if it was an apple. So I've been eating tomato for as long as I can remember. I'm far from being 50, but I just love it. And carrots. They say carrots have incredible benefits in all forms. Where I live here currently in Vietnam, I get a big jug of like this of freshly squeezed carrot juice for literally for less than $1, and I
Oh,
indulge
wow.
into one or two of those. So, what are your thoughts on that? On specific fruits and vegetables, for example, like carrots, um, tomatoes, and even apples, banana, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that the more fruits that we eat overall
Mm.
is really good. I'm a fruit guy. I'm a fruity guy, right? It made me choke, right? I'm a fruity guy. It's definitely like I definitely recommend it. I don't know specifically about that. I'm just learning that from you right now about
Okay.
tomatoes and carrots, especially the tomato thing. I just learned that from you. But overall, like I've noticed in
Mm.
my own experimentation with different diets, the more fruits and vegetables I just find, the better I feel, the more energy I have. And the more
Mm.
raw food that we can eat, the more
Yes.
life force or prana that's in it, right? So prana being life force or chi, energy. So like I love that, like eating a tomato raw, right? Having carrots. I love carrots actually, and I'll just peel a carrot and just eat it. And I love
Exactly.
carrot. I think carrot's such a tasty dish. The more things that we can eat raw, the better. So because when we eat something, we have to also remember that eating, just like what is the what is the nature or the function of an ejaculation? It's really to create a baby. That's what it's for,
Mm.
right? At its most raw, like at its most raw element. What is food for? Energy, right? Food is not like we're like, foodies these days, right? We love to go to the nice restaurants and we like to, we spice up our foods and all this stuff. But at its rawest form, at its base form, food is for energy. And so that's why you want to eat the highest quality foods you can get a hold of. And you want to eat the most raw food that you could possibly get a hold of because it has the most life force in it.
Mm.
So when you eat an apple, when you eat a carrot, when you eat a tomato, especially if you can get it closest to the tree, like the best thing. And I'm really sensitive to energy. I remember I was picking raspberries and blueberries right off the bush and just eating them, and I could feel like the tingles going through my body,
Mm.
feeling that life force in my body, and being like, wow, that's energy. That's food, right? When we microwave stuff and we zap stuff and it's been sitting there for days, it's starting to go into the mode of ignorance because it's decaying. And
Mm.
we want to put as best as we can living living fruits and vegetables into our body. That's going to give you the most energy, and it's also going to help you heal you from anything that you may be carrying.
Absolutely. Speaking of diets, you know, what are your thoughts and what are the relationship between an all meat diet and the semen quality? Because, the example of Jordan Peterson, his daughter, Joe
Hmm.
Rogan, Dr. Sean
Yep.
Baker, they swear by it. Even me last year, when I was living in Malaysia, I tried it for 3 months. And I swear to you, man, I've never felt so much more focused, full of energy. Because normally when I have a normal diet, an hour after lunch, I feel hungry. I need to munch.
Mm,
And right after lunch, I need to take a nap. But
mm,
when I switched to all meat, so no breakfast for lunch, big steak and 4 eggs, and I did add some salads to the side. I was so focused, no desire to nap, not hungry at all until 7, 8 o'clock. But then at 7, 8 p.m., it's like a cliff. The first day I almost collapsed because I didn't know it. Psh, I needed to get the food ASAP. So,
mm.
what are your thoughts on an all meat diet and the quality of how is that going to affect semen, for example? Because that's a lifestyle that I really want to learn as much as possible for myself because I'm a meat lover.
Yeah, sure. I think that like first of all, like the idea of like the intermittent fasting where you're
Mm.
taking breaks, you're not meeting is part of that, and it's really
Yes.
important. I think overall as a society, we just eat way too much.
Oh, big
Like we
time.
just like yeah, we're just over consuming, and a lot of it's bored eating, a lot of it's dehydration. And we've also been poorly educated by, big corporations who, like here in Canada, we've got the Canadian Food Guide, which is just absolutely just garbage nonsense. They put cereal on it and they put all kinds of breads that are full of processed sugars. You should have 5 meals a day. It's all designed to get you to consume, consume, consume. It's nonsense. Again, I go back to I don't push any particular diet because I've lived both. I've lived as a vegetarian, very strict vegetarian. I lived as a strict Sattvic diet for a time, no onion, no garlic, fruits, vegetables, lentils. I've also ate a carnivore diet, and so I think that everybody has to listen to their body. I
Mhm.
found for me that the carnivore diet, like I would just get clogged up. I have to drink lots and lots and lots of water and such. So it also that was really interesting is because my wife also has experimented with both. And what we did in our research, what we found was depending on your background and your history, like I have Indian blood, and Indian is the largest vegetarian nation, right?
Mhm.
I found that I could do the vegetarian diet. My wife, she had a lot of problems, a lot of health problems doing that, and she did really well listening to Jordan Peterson and at one point she was eating like a piece of meat and avocado, and she actually started to repair her gut health, and she started
Mhm.
getting a lot healthier. So that's why I don't promote. I'm not a heavy promoter of one diet over the next. I think everybody needs to figure out what works for them and what makes sense. But overall, principally, eat real food. If it comes from planet
Mhm.
Earth, that's a good thing, right? And the less processed stuff that you can cut out, definitely better. And you'll notice both in the vegetarian and the carnivore diet, because I've had both. But what I've noticed is that when I cut out the sugars, it's when the
Mhm.
cravings cut out. And that's the biggest thing. It's
Yes.
neither the vegetarian or carnivore that really did it for me per se. What
Mm.
really did it for me is when I started reducing and cutting out the processed foods and sugars, and I would just eat real food. And then all of a sudden, I'm not craving. I'm not overeating. I'm more focused. Now add that with the semen retention practice, and it's just like boom. I always say there's a saying that's like if you want to keep your man happy, keep his balls empty and his stomach full,
Yeah.
right? Like there's kind of like this kind of this saying, right? And I'm like, that's if you want to keep a man sedated, not happy. Like that if you
Mm.
want to keep a man lethargic and sedated, keep his balls empty and his stomach full. If you want to see what a man is made of and you want to see his greatness, keep his stomach empty and his balls full and watch him explode and go conquer the world.
Oh, absolutely. Speaking of that, I've been practicing intermittent fasting for a while. What are your thoughts, for example, on going to the gym on an empty stomach?
Yeah, I mean, I tend to, so I go to the gym in the mornings and
Mm.
I do it on an empty stomach. It really works for me. I actually find I've got a ton of energy, especially because of my retention practice. So I
Mm.
don't find that and then, so my routine generally is, I get up, I do my prayers, and meditations. Then I'm at the gym by 7. So I'm up generally between like 5:30. I do my meditations, my prayer. I'm at the gym at 7, 7 to 8 I work out, and then from 8 till about 8:30 I do another meditative practice specifically called sexual alchemy. These are specific techniques and practices that I teach to transmute sexual energy. Then I'm home, I shower, and then I have my first team meeting so with my team and my staff at 9:30. And so we have Monday to Friday our team meeting at 9:30, and that's when I start my workday. Between 8:30 9:30 is when I get back from the gym is when I'll eat my first meal. Like this morning I had banana and yogurt. And
Mm.
then I generally won't eat again till like 12, 1 o'clock, or when I get a break in between calls. And then once again in the evening, I'll maybe have an apple or a little snack in between. If I get hungry, I just
Mm.
listen to my body. But yeah, I don't think that it's necessary. Again, everybody's a bit different, and depending on the lifestyle you live, and I also like, how much sleep you're getting.
Oh, that's
I think there's a
huge.
lot of factors. Yeah, a huge part of it is not only the hours of sleep, but the quality of sleep.
Hmm.
And so when you're getting really good quality sleep, you're eating really good foods, and you're regulating your sexual activity, generally you're going to be high energy, you're going to be motivated, you're going to have like very little brain fog, you're going to be very, sharp and on point. And then I think there's a lot of variations or
Hmm.
degrees to that depending on the individual and what they're looking to achieve as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned cutting off the sweets, which is absolutely vital. But what are your thoughts on the natural sweet and sugar contained in fruits, for example?
Yeah, I think that's again, if it comes from Mother Earth, have at it, right? I remember one
Mm,
time my trainer said to me, this was years and years ago. He gave me a simple he called it P and P, protein produce. Protein produce. If you have some protein, have some produce. I personally love fruits.
mm,
He said to me, I have yet to meet the person to become overweight by eating fruits or vegetables, right? It's like you can, have a whole thing of salads or whatever it is. And as far as the sugars, like I know there's like, I remember I was a friend of mine, she was big on the keto diet, and I was eating an apple, and she's like, "Oh no, you gotta avoid that, avoid that." I was like, "No, I mean, look, I was like, listen, you do what makes sense for you and what works for you." I
mhm.
said, but I think when we're talking about avoiding sugars, what we're really talking about is processed sugars. Your body needs
Mm,
sugar to actually have energy. And in my opinion, the one of the best sources of that natural sugar is going to be fruits. And when you're eating a fruit, you're also not just because it's not just about the sugar, but it's about the chemical compound in it. You're
mm,
eating the fiber. So when you're eating an apple, yes, you're eating lots of sugar, but it's being mixed with the fibers that actually reduce the impacts of it. So your body knows what to do with it. So again, my whole principle around food is just eat real food and you'll be good. Stay away from, there's this say when you go through the grocery store, stay away from the middle aisles. Stay around the edge because the edge is like your fruits, your vegetables, your meat sections, you've got some frozen stuff, frozen veggies, frozen fruits, these type of things. Stay around the outside and avoid the shelves because all of that box stuff, that is
mm.
there's no life force, there's no prana. It's sugary processed stuff. It's been sitting on the shelves for a long time. Real food is supposed to decay. If it's not decaying, that's an issue. Cereals and stuff, it doesn't decay,
Sure.
that's an issue.
Absolutely. What about the sugar contained, say, and bread, pasta, pizza, stuff like that?
Yeah, I think ultimately you want to just generally avoid it. I mean, I
Mm,
like some pasta once in a while, this type of thing. I'm not a big pasta eater myself, but if I do eat pasta, I try to go with the whole wheat pasta, just like brown rice, whole wheat pastas. So if you can get the better version of it, then I would say go with that. And again, like for me as well, like some carb, like I'm not anti-carb or anti anything. And I'm also like, I mean, I'm a pretty fit guy. Um, if I'm at a birthday party and there's cake, I'm gonna eat some cake. I'm not like strict on anything, right? Like I'm
yeah,
gonna
yeah.
have some ice cream, I'm gonna have some cake.
Sure.
Now, once in a while, like
Mhm,
that's fine. Like I think if you're overall healthy, then have at it. If you're eating ice cream, cake, pasta, and breads every day, especially white breads with all of the processed sugars and stuff, it's gonna cause problems. And
sure.
even if you get away with it, you just got to know that you're not operating at your best. And a
Mm,
lot of guys, they're like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm doing fine." And I'm like, "That's cool. I'm sure you are." But if you want to operate at a high level,
mm,
you can't be okay with fine. You have to
sure.
be like, yeah, I heard this saying. It's like, to go from a C to a B student, it takes a certain amount of, discipline and energy. To
Mhm,
go from a B to an A student, it takes tremendous amounts more of discipline and energy. Like
mm,
90% of the way is only halfway. The
sure.
last 10%, the journey from B to A, the journey from good to great, is discipline at a higher level. It's what Muhammad Ali was talking about. It's going to bed at 9 o'clock, getting up early, being regimented and focused. It's a level of discipline that most people aren't willing to do. And that's why the greatness is only for a few that are willing. They're not okay with fine. They want
Mm,
to achieve at the highest level. So again, all goes back to your personal goals. If you're
sure.
cool with the way your life is going, then you're cool with the way life is going. But if you want to discover what you're made up and you want to go for greatness, you want to achieve something at a higher level, you have to be willing to sacrifice and take on disciplines that only the few do.
Absolutely, absolutely. Fascinating conversation. You mentioned about, well, we mentioned about the another major pillar of healthy living, and that is sleep. You mentioned quality sleeping. What is exactly quality sleeping?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so again, I'm going to refer back to those three modes of material nature.
Mhm.
So to me, quality sleep, and when I really, this was a difficult process for me. It took me years to finally join the 5 a.m. club and get that going.
Have you read that
Um,
book?
I didn't read the book, but it's just kind of like a thing
Okay.
in my men's community that we do.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I think it was Robin Sharma,
Amazing book. Yes.
right, that wrote the book, the 5 a.m. Club. Yeah. Um, and so it's like, who's joining the 5 a.m. Club? And so basically, so okay, those three modes of material nature. So let's refer back to those.
Sure.
So in the yogic way of looking at things, we look at it that the day is split into those modes.
Mm.
So the mode of goodness is right before the sun wakes up, so 4:35, right before the sun's coming up, all the way up till the sun is like, say, coming up into the sky, is the best time for spiritual practice, reading, meditation, working out,
Mm.
because the energy is the most still. Like, if you're up early, it is super still, it is quiet. It is known as it's your subconscious mind is wide open. I get my best inspirations in the morning, like my highest inspirations, my most creative thoughts floods in the morning. So that's considered to be in the mode of goodness, meaning getting up early is considered to be in the mode of goodness. Also, we know that your hormones are linked to the sun and moon cycles. So
Mm.
you're supposed to actually follow the sun. When the sun is rising, it's time to rise.
Yes.
Then as the sun goes higher into the sky, we now go into the mode of passion. The mode of passion is life force, sex energy, creation time. It's now time to work. It's now time to get things done. You'll see, like, economy, right? Everybody's working during the day. It's because we're being energized by the sun. And then as the sun goes down and the moon starts to come up, mode of ignorance, darkness, it's
Mm.
now time to wind down, little entertainment, a little bit of conversation, games, Netflix, whatever it is. And then what we want to do is by the time the moon is really coming up, we want to be in bed. So 9:30. Me, I'm generally in bed between 9 and 9:30, 10 o'clock, generally the latest. And then I do a little bit of reading and I pass out. And then I'm up naturally between 5:30, sometimes a little later, 6. My alarm goes off at 6, but I'm generally my eyes are open before then. And right in bed, I start doing my prayers and start to set my day. And I've got this whole morning routine in which I do my declarations, affirmations, look at my vision board, do my prayers, and then off to the gym.
Beautiful, beautiful. Speaking of speaking of the benefits of semen retention, is there like a fast rule of after how many days of retention you start seeing results? And you've seen those cartoons and memes that after 30 days the guy becomes like jacked, after a year is Superman, after 2 years is God. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure you've seen
That's
those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Definitely. I definitely share them too. I think those are fun and it's really motivating. Obviously they're exaggerated. They're memes.
Mm,
I like to set realistic expectations because there's other factors. Like if it's the first time you're practicing semen retention, and you've been living an unhealthy lifestyle, you might not get all
mm,
those benefits at the beginning because you might have a lot of body fat. The less body fat you carry, the more your electricity or life force moves through the
mm,
system easier. So there's some variables to that. But overall, there's a nice calculation, which is basically you take your age times it by 0.02 and it's going to give you a number. That number is a Taoist calculation that basically tells you based upon your age how frequently you want to regulate your ejaculation where you won't feel much depletion. Basically, as you get older, you want to reduce it
mm.
because as we get older, we just bodies takes a little longer to repair. We can't do as much as we did. So basically, I like to tell my guys, like for me, I'm regulated to once a month. So once a month, I do have sex more than once a month with my wife, but it's non-ejaculatory sex. It's non-ejaculatory orgasms, which are energy orgasms, which you can train your
Mm,
body to have. Um, but and then once a month maximum, and oftentimes I'll go longer than that. But that's after years and years and years of practicing. So I'm very
sure.
used to it.
Mm,
When I first started, it was like if I went a week, it was like a good week, right? It was
yeah.
like, all right, whew, right? So, so I use a progressive ladder with guys. I don't suggest going zero to hero and trying to just go, monk mode and all this stuff.
Yeah.
It can be very frustrating.
Oh yeah.
There's loss of sleep, there's sweating. Like when I first started practicing, I was up all night sweating, just like trying so hard, and all this stuff. So it's better to progress, and that's why we teach sexual alchemy practices. These you're really meant to do it along with spiritual practices and not just what I call white knuckling it.
Mm,
Um, so yeah, the older you get, generally then it becomes a little bit longer. And generally what I tell guys is if at bare minimum, you can reduce it to once a week or twice a month, you're going to be ahead of 90 to 95% of the guys on the planet. You're going to have a tremendous amounts of more energy. And for
sure.
most guys, that's going to be at least a nice starting point.
Beautiful. What was that formula again? You said you take your age, you multiply it by what again?
Yeah, zero point 0.2. So like if I do mine, like I'm 39, I'll just open up my calculator here
Zero
quickly.
point 0.2. Okay.
So yeah, so if I go 39 times that by 0.02, and that's giving me 0.78. So it's if actually zero point 0.2, let me do that again. So 39 times zero point 0.2. Yeah, 7.8. So it's basically saying for me, like every 8 days would be the
Ah.
Taoist calculation where I wouldn't feel like it gives your body enough time to replenish. It gives your body enough time to, reabsorb and you won't feel the depletion. The other aspect of it is times of year, meaning during the winter time, you want to be more conservative with your energy because your body's just using more energy to keep you warm. And sexual energy is fire element. So when we look at it from an elemental perspective, it's fire. And so therefore it helps you keep you hotter. During the summer, spring, summer times,
Interesting.
you can be a little bit more loose with it because you're actually getting some of that energy and replenishing yourself from the sun energy and the natural heat of the earth.
What if you're living in a tropical area where it's hot year long? Like for example, I'm in Asia. It's hot and hotter
Yeah.
and rainy and rainy. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah. It's hot and hotter. I like that. Yeah, so you might just be able to have a little bit more fun than the rest of us up here in
Okay.
Canada.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Good, good, good. So fascinating conversation. Seriously, fascinating. Um, Tell us about your business.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, I run an interfaith men's ministry. Our ministry is about our mission of the ministry is helping men master their sexual energy. Why it's interfaith is because I don't really care. Like I've studied so many different religions and processes. I have a vast knowledge of different traditions. So I have Muslim guys working with me. I have Christian guys. I've got Hindu guys, yogic guys, Taoist guys. I've got guys who don't identify with any religion, but they just simply want to expand
Mm,
consciousness. And I don't care. I'll work with an atheist if somebody just wants to learn to transmute their energy. This is for all men. Um, and what we do is we have different tiers of programs depending where a guy is starting. So there's generally let's say three main, let's say tiers or levels in which we can help a guy. First is if you find yourself stuck in the world of pornography, you find like you're watching a lot of pornography, you're masturbating a lot. We've got trainings and programs to help you eliminate pornography and from your life. And that's the first place we want to start. Let's just get rid of the porn because that doesn't just have the depletion effect of the masturbation, but there's a whole hormonal effect that we talked about in the last episode. And so we really just want to get porn out of our lives. Then the second level is a guy who may want to practice non-ejaculatory sex, non-ejaculatory orgasms. He wants to learn to become a better lover. He wants to change the quality of lovemaking. What happens in this day and age, because we all have porn brains, we tend to have sex in that way, whether rough sex or fantasy-based sex. It's all kind of like in that sense. And what somebody may want to get back to is more of a tantric style of sex where it's more lovemaking, intimacy, which, at first it kind of seems boring to the porn mind. Like I know it did to me. It's like, oh, like I just kind of want to, just want to bang her, right? Kind of this
Yeah.
type of right. Just, I don't know, make love, right? But actually, I found that actually, like as I changed the quality of, it's not that there's no room for hot, passionate sex, but even that hot, passionate sex when you have dynamic and control, when you can go fast, go slow, when you can last for hours because you can control yourself. First of all, you can give a whole different experience in the bedroom. It's really powerful for a man to be able to control himself. It gives a
Mhm.
lot of confidence and it really changes relationships both in and outside the bedroom. So there's
Absolutely.
that level, yeah, where a guy wants to just, master his sexual energy for bedroom, purposes. And then there's the level of transmutation and mastering your sexual energy outside the bedroom, which is like leadership development. How do I become more magnetic? How do I become sharper? How do I take all of this energy and pour it into my life goals? So we help men create their definite chief aim, their life goals. We have that's pillar one. Pillar two is all about, we call it the restructured man process, where I teach 21 techniques to win the war between your ears so that you can reprogram your subconscious mind. Pillar three is sexual energy mastery or sexual alchemy. It's a series of meditations, breath work, and muscle control to control your energy and transmute it. Then pillar four is about integrating it into everyday life. So it's not just practice, but it becomes your muscle memory, kind of like riding a bike. Once you know how to ride a bike and you've ridden a bike, you can do it for life. That's what these practices are like. Once you get it, we want to integrate it so it's a skill set that you have for life. And then we teach competent communication skills, how to actually use that energy and transmute it in your voice. So you've got a strong voice, you're magnetic, you can influence, and that's going
Mhm.
to help you directly in your sales, enrolling people into your business, influencing your team. Our whole thing is we're creating better fathers, husbands, community members, business members, politicians, so that we can ultimately restore healthy masculinity and therefore restore the energetic poles to bring balance and harmony in our world.
Beautiful, beautiful. Love that. Love that. Um, there's a saying that says, change your story, change your life. So for example, when you were at some of your lowest moment in your life, how did you yourself change your story to change your life?
Yeah, I love that. And uh, I read lots of books, listened to podcasts like yours,
Mm,
right? Filled
yeah.
my mind with stories of successful people, spiritually successful people, materially successful people. I can't tell you the amount of books,
Mm,
podcasts, webinars. I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on my own coaching and training. I've invested heavily into myself. And that's what helped me do it. I mean, I'm no different than anybody else. Anybody can be successful. I truly believe that. You got to get around the right mentors, the right people. And I know at the beginning it's difficult. You're like, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, neither did I. I had no money when I started. I listened to your TED Talk and what an inspiring
thank you.
story, being broke and living in a foreign country but just being like, hey, what can I do? Putting on your suit and going to the networking events. I did all that stuff too. I really related to your story because it was like, yeah, I did that too. I remember being totally broke, showing up to networking events in my suit, shaking hands, and just being like, like having zero cash, like need to borrow a few bucks to get home type of thing. And
Yeah.
but I got, what, and the universe really helps those who help themselves, because
Mm,
I would meet people and they would give me advice. So, there's so much free, and especially in today's world. I mean, go to I call it the YouTube ashram, the temple of YouTube, and just type in personal development, like
mm.
Look at how many podcasts are out there. Start filling your mind with those great stories, stories like yours, men who have transformed their life, men
Yes.
who are doing great things, men who are on their way. Get around that. And if you can't get around it physically, get around it online. There's no excuse in this day and age not to be able to fill your mind with positive, good messaging. And the more you do that, you'll recognize those thought processes start playing in your own mind. You start going, yeah, you know what? Start sparking ideas. You
Mm.
start looking at your own environment and you start looking at your environment different. And I've studied all major religions around the world, and they all agree on one point. They disagree on so many things, right? But on one point they all agree on is a man becomes what he thinks about.
Oh, yes.
All of them.
Mm.
Every single tradition, from the Stoic tradition, Christianity, it's in the Bible, both New and Old Testament. It's in the Bhagavad Gita. It's in the Buddha Sutras. This idea that you become what you think about, and it's very difficult to change your thought process by yourself because we have so much conditioning, our parents, culture, media. You must do it in the association of
Mm.
others, and that's available through podcasts and books and webinars and YouTube. Pick a couple people that you like and study them, and that's going to really rewire you. And also, like I said, I like to set realistic expectations with my guys and my students and the people I work with. Like, look, you didn't get to where you're at overnight. It's not going to change overnight. I've seen some miracle stories,
Sure.
but the reality is you've got to be in it to win it. Think long term. Start making small incremental changes today, and those will compound in your favor as the months and years go on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Powerful. Powerful. Let's start wrapping things up. Fascinating conversation. We can go for hours. There's so many other questions I still have, but we'll save that for another time. Um, if someone were to connect, wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
Yeah, I'd say the best way is just go onto my website, nicoladaz.com.
Mm-hmm.
My website's like the hub to the rest of, my online world. I'm on all major platforms, very active. I've got a ton of stuff on YouTube and videos to watch on the subject, so you can binge watch a lot of stuff there. I'm very active on Instagram and different social media platforms. So just reach out, connect with me. You can just send me a message directly, and I'm happy to connect. And we take it from there.
All right, awesome, brother. Listen, absolutely fascinating conversation. Loved our chat. Learned a lot. Thank you. What you're doing is really important, especially a lot of men need that kind of information. I think this is the kind of information I wish were, taught in high schools. Like, for example, how to negotiate instead of teaching us all this nonsense that are being, brainwashing kids nowadays. You know what I'm referring to? Teach
Oh,
them valuable
100%.
skills, like, for example, semen retention, being, negotiation, how to handle money, things that really matter, how to speak with women, for guys, and for women the other way around, how to embrace your masculinity, how to embrace your femininity, both for men and women, these are the things that really need to be taught. But ultimately, it's our job ourselves to learn it ourselves and teach it to our kids, to people around us. So I commend you for that. Well done. And I really love what you're doing. So cheering for you, brother,
Thank
and
you.
looking forward to our next conversation. So keep shining your light, keep sharing your gifts wide and loud and proud around you and around the world. And remember, you yourself, Nakula, you're a gift. So keep shining it, keep sharing, my brother. All right, take care. Have a great way. God bless. I salute you. You're truly with a heart. And talk to you very soon. Take care. Cheers.